wonder what it's like to create a documentary. How do we go about doing it? Here at the BBC Academy, we'll be speaking to our BBC documentary maker, Sahar Zand.
Sahar Zand.
Sahar Zand.
Sahar Zand.
Sahar Zand. Sahar Zand.
My name is Sahar Zand. I am a reporter and filmmaker at the BBC. I was born in Iran.
What are the struggles she faces? What happens on location? How does she verify her information?
What's really incredible is that none of these kids seem to be fazed by the fact that there is a dead person lying here and everybody's so calm.
So as a documentary maker, where are your ideas inspired from?
I'm constantly researching, I'm constantly reading, I'm constantly traveling for my job, I'm constantly meeting new people. So I'm constantly coming up with new ideas. I used to find news boring, and I used to find the way news was presented boring. This is a few years ago before I started my career. To this day, whenever I'm thinking about doing a story or working on an idea, I think, what would me, 7, 8 years ago, the girl that, would run away from news, what would she be interested in and how can I catch her attention? And that's how basically I come up with my ideas.
Crunchy. But my main challenge is the locust. Well, it has wings and everything. Ow! I can feel the legs, it's cool. Very chewy. If eating insects is to become a part of our fight against climate change, then it cannot remain an occasional novelty, but would have to become a part of everybody's diet. But that might take a bit of time.
Not all of us are skilled researchers. Where do you get your research from? What's the key?
What's the key? I wish I could just whack out a key and say, this is the key to research. It's a difficult job, and working for the BBC, and as a journalist yourself, it's your responsibility to provide reliable information. And the BBC expects any information that you give to have been confirmed by at least 3 reliable sources. When you start your initial, big research to really get a sense of the story, you have to accept that a lot of the information you're getting is not accurate, a lot of it may be wrong. I think the key is really knowing what your story is and really reading around it, not just relying on the internet. You need to speak to experts, you need to read books, you need to contact organizations.
The greenhouse gases emitted from producing 200 grams of steak is the same as if you were to produce 20 kilograms of edible insects.
How do you pitch your ideas?
I have had the privilege of working with many different teams at the BBC. Each team works differently. So, for example, when I worked for World Hacks, which is a solution-focused journalism unit at the BBC, a great team, we had weekly meetings and we were expected to come up with ideas about solutions being tried out to fix different problems around the world. My team would be there, my editor would be there, and he would say, oh, yes, this is interesting, look into it, or no, this has been done already, or I don't think this is quite right. So that's one way things work, which is their standard way. People come up with their ideas within their teams.
Fantasia, a centuries-old Moroccan tradition. A way for Berber men to show off their masculinity, horsemanship and warfare. But in the recent years, all women troops are taking the reign, challenging the tradition.
Editors who decide whether or not to commission your story, they get ideas sent to them all the time, right? And they're busy, so you need to catch their attention. So you have to be able to prove that this is going to be interesting, telling them what it's going to be like and why it's important to tell it.
Scared for their life, Mariam and many other women like her say that they come to Europe as this is their only option. They claim that far from protecting them, their governments actually make their situation a lot worse.
What are the struggles you face when producing a documentary? What are the dangers?
There are challenges literally from the first second you come up with the idea until the very end. I think the whole process is about how you respond to these challenges and overcoming them. For example, with my Living with the Dead documentary in Indonesia.
On the Indonesian island of Sulawesi, centuries-old customs make the dead a constant part of day-to-day life. I've come here to learn more about these remarkable practices, which blur the line between this world and the next.
My field producer, suddenly she's like, I feel really ill. I'm just gonna lie down. It turns out, and then her ankle got so big. It turns out she got like stung by something. The hospital said it was a snake, but yeah, so she ended up having to leave, and I had to direct the documentary. I had to present it, field produce it, record the sound for the radio, do the stand-up for radio, do my piece to cameras to the thing. And it was all happening so fast that they were like digging out the dead woman from the ground, and I was scared, but then I didn't have time to be scared. And they were like sacrificing buffaloes next to me, and there were blood splashing on me, and I was like, ah! But I was like, I have to deal with this.
They're bringing Maria out now. We're just waiting for them to open her coffin. I'm feeling a bit nervous, to be honest. I just had to come out to get some distance from it. There really was no escaping death. I watched as they slaughtered pigs. And the final sacrifice, a buffalo. The coffin.
So many challenges came my way, but all I cared about was my story and me coming up with a creative way to make it happen, because nothing is impossible. You just have to find a way to make it happen and believe in yourself that you can do it.
I'm gonna try to touch her hair just as everybody else does, as a sign of respect. She feels very hard. The hair feels like normal. Still very soft.
In regards to dangers, common sense. Sometimes we forget. We want to do our stories so much, and we go to a place and we have a short amount of time to get so many interviews, and so many exciting things are happening, and you have to juggle so many balls at the same time. You forget that the most basic things. You forget that you might get hit by a car. You forget that you shouldn't be standing on an edge of a building.
One of the bears actually tried to climb out of his new cage because he got electrocuted by the new fence. We're just taking a few steps back for our own safety, and so the animal feels a bit more calm.
So common sense. Always tell yourself, what would I not be doing if I wasn't filming?
So how do you make sure that your contributors are not affected by any of your documentaries in a negative way?
Duty of care, or really looking after my contributors, is very important. If I have doubts, I speak to my editors. If my editors have doubts, they speak to, higher and higher. For example, I went to make a short documentary in a women's prison in the US.
I'm excited to see it. I'm super excited. I always get all sweaty. And after lunchtime, I could hardly sit
It was
still.
about prison moms being able to hug their children. The mother told us, or some of the other prisoners that I interviewed there, they told me what their crimes were, and they were happy to talk about it. But then we felt like that's not what the story is, and by doing that, we might be putting their lives, their situation, once they're out, in danger. So I didn't use that information. Really explaining to your contributors and being really honest where this is going to go and how it might impact them, and really considering this first is really important.
How do you think your actual personality is different to your online personality?
I come across more confident online.
You come across, or are you actually more confident online?
I'm more confident online. You can be what you want online. No one has to know any of your insecurities if you don't say.
I had to teach myself how to edit. I had to teach myself how to film, just so that if I have to go and do a project and I'm working with a cameraman that isn't good or tells me he can't do something, or if I don't have a cameraman, I can just do it myself. Or if I'm working with a picture editor and they're editing my thing and I say, do this, and they say I can't, I'm just like, excuse me, and I do it. And also, journalism, especially TV and radio, it's not a 2D thing, it's multidimensional. So having all these different skills helps you really know what to do with it and where to take it. If you really believe in your stories and your abilities, right, no matter how inexperienced you are, anybody can get experience. If you really believe in your story, go and do it. Don't let somebody else tell you what you can and what you cannot do. And, learn enough skills not to have to rely on anyone.